All right, let's go over what I'm gonna plan on doing with these gauges here. These are the factory gauges out of the old Cutlass over here. I figured I'd show what I'm gonna do with it because none of them worked. When I got the car, I roadkilled the thing home from Illinois. It was awesome. Surprisingly, it made it with no issues, but no gauges worked. There was no speedo. There was no, it had an aftermarket shifter, of course, so the Prindle was useless. Mileage, of course, didn't work. The fuel gauge, which is down in here, didn't work because there's no fuel sending unit. And then we have idiot lights, which, I mean, the wiring is pretty hodgepodge anyways. There were no idiot anything. So I pulled the dash out and I plan on putting an aftermarket cluster in it, but I plan on going with, this is the cover, and this is what I plan on using for my gauges. It's from Intellitronix. I found it on eBay. It's made in America. Says it right here, made in USA. Woo! But the dimensions of this, it's like a universal cluster, but the dimensions of this are basically perfect for fitting right inside here. So I took the cluster out and I ordered this thing. It's in a blue. It looks really good. I can't really hook it up yet to show, but I'll show it in another video. When I finish, I will show it. Put that there for now. But what I planned on doing was wiring all those wires there into these connectors, and then cutting the old C1 connector off of the factory clip and soldering this in place and making my own pinout like I did here for the Buick. This is my Buick pinout. Got instrument panel side, the female end, which was this one. This was what was on all the gauges, the plug that was on all the gauges, and I had all the wires marked and everything, what they were, the top and bottom row. And then I also did the body side. The sad thing is I didn't put the damn colors. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I didn't do the colors for these lights when I should have, or for these wires. So I could have made them match pretty close. You know, I can still get them pretty close, but it's just going to take a little bit more work. But I plan on using this same pinout reference for this gauge cluster. So what I did was I pulled this bucket out. This whole bucket came out as one piece, and then I disassembled it some more by pulling this plastic cover off. And that plastic cover is going to go back on. But as you can see, that thing fits right inside the plastic. That gauge cluster right there. And then, see, the plan is it's going to go literally right here on top of the metal part that surrounds everything. And the plan I was going to do for that was this piece right here. I'm probably going to cut it here, 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 and cut all this stuff out and just make it one big open, and then rivet a piece of sheet metal on it and make it all flat, and then mount this gauge panel, because it's got like these nylon washers that space it up off of stuff, so the contacts on the back aren't touching nothing. And it'll sit it up on top of this piece, and then I'll just run the wires through it and then through here. Now with this, all this stuff comes out, man. If anybody's ever done these on a Gbody, this all comes out. It's easy to take out. But the speedo comes out. You got your little Prindle indicator here. That comes out through the back. And then you got a fuel gauge that comes out. All the idiot lights came out. And then the printed circuit was on the back. I took it off. I mean, I don't need any of this stuff. And I'm just going to use this bucket, and I'm not even going to gut the bucket or nothing, because I'm just going to leave it empty, and I'm going to have the connector probably come through here or here somewhere. The connector will come into this box somewhere, and then this will sit on top, and then the Intellitronix will sit on top of that. And like I said, I wanted to take a flat piece and then just cover this whole, make this all one piece. That way this mounts on top of it and you don't see through it. And then once that's in there, the plastic, clear plastic here, will go over it, and it'll look basically like it was factory digital. That's the plan I'm going with. I think it'll work out pretty good. If anybody's got any questions or anything, just go ahead and hit me up. I found connector diagrams and stuff online. I think it was on Gbody wiring or Malibu wiring, something like that, on Google. But I do plan on using my own pinouts and my own diagrams that I will make these two connectors here, this male and female connector, I will make these work with my gauges, you know. And this Intellitronix gauge is pretty cool. It's got everything on it. It's got your voltage, your oil pressure, mile per hour with an odometer. It has your RPM, temperature, and your fuel gauge. It also has these two little pegs here are your turn signals. So if you see, there's those two pegs right there. Those are not the turn signals. That's actually for the odometer trip reset, and that is for setting the tachometer. That was my mistake. And there's also a bright light indicator somewhere on here. I think it's, you know what? I don't know where it's at. All I know is that supposedly it's on here. There are LEDs on here. But oh, you can actually see some of the diagram for the wiring. And on the back, let's see if I can show this a little bit better. You can see what everything is, you know, 12 volt fuel, water, the dimmer, which you hook up to, you hook that purple wire up to, it says not to put it onto the rheostat, which is the light adjustment on the old school bulbs. It says just to hook it to a 12 volt source. So when you turn your headlights on, it'll dim this whole cluster by 50%. It's actually pretty cool. I've hooked it up and tested it. But then you got, let's see, right light, left light, and high beam. Those are your indicators. And then you got a ground, your mile per hour, oil, and tach. So it's basically everything you need. I think it was 300 bucks for this little thing. Seems like a lot for what it is, but it looks real nice. And it's got that blackout cover that goes over it. I'll try and put a picture right up in here, so you can see what it looks like. It should look pretty decent in this thing. I just figured it'd be pretty cool since there's no gauges, and you need some gauges to be in a street car. But that's the plan. I'll make another video when it's done. It shouldn't take too long, but once I finish the interior of this thing, that's when I plan on moving on to the gauges. So getting ready to start painting on that thing if you've seen the last video, and then I will put the dash back in. I might film putting the dash back in piece by piece, and then that way we'll have that info, and then, you know, in case anybody needs it. And then I'll work on these gauges and plug these gauges in and stuff. All right, we'll fast forward a little bit, a few weeks. I finally got to the gauges. So as you can see, it just kind of looks blank in there. You can see the screws. And then I still have to put sheet metal on this and rivet. So I was gonna rivet some sheet metal to that, kind of like I did here. Just some thin sheet metal. But I got the gauges in there. So what I did was I did that piece of sheet metal here, and then I cut a square, just like a thin square strip out of it to see the gauges through. And then I put it, I drilled holes in it, and then I put that cluster behind the sheet metal, and then there's got like a tinted lens that I put on top of the sheet metal to cover up the hole. And it covers it up really nice. But go ahead and put the key in. Turn all that stuff off. But this is what it looks like inside of it. It's just like almost like a factory replacement. I thought it looked pretty cool. But as far as the wiring goes, I'll show a picture probably right about, I don't know, here. That's what I used as a reference for wires and what they did, like the colors and stuff. But it worked out great. It all matched. Might not have been the same exact spot in the connector itself and the pinout, but the colors of the wires, I mean, if you got a voltmeter, you could easily go and test all them wires and stuff and find out which ones are what. But here, I'll turn this on. And then this Intellitronix thing also has turn signals, left, right, and turn the headlights on. When I turn the headlights on, the brightness goes down by 50%. It's actually pretty cool. And then we have bright light indicator, which I thought was also pretty sweet. But That's the Intellitronix gauge cluster I put in my 78 Cutlass. It went pretty well. From what I've seen, they actually make custom clusters for a few different Gbodies, a couple Cutlasses and Monte Carlos and stuff that should just bolt right in. But figured I'd show my Intellitronix gauge cluster, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. I'd get another one if I could, but that's how I put a gauge cluster in my 78 Cutlass Gbody. Worked out pretty well. So until the next one, I'll catch y'all later.